Friends and partners of NAfrica TV, greetings. It's my pleasure now to share with you my research I did on Pan-Africanism and how the economics of Africa continent is moving forward. As usual, as normal, you always know that on NAfrica TV, we are dealing with the Pan-Africanism talks, and now we are talking about the currency in Africa. When we say currency is something which is not normal because it touches on the life of each nation, and also it touches on the life of African continent and global, by the way. Now, we are going to see why and how many currencies in Africa, why and how many currencies in Africa, and also we see the reason behind why Africa does not have its single currency. Is it necessary not to having one single? We've seen these superpowers countries, they have their own currencies. So feel free, and you are most welcome on the microphone of NAfrica TV. Now, let us start from the currencies in Africa. In normal sense in Africa, we have almost 41 to 43, between 41 and 43 currencies. These are different currencies in Africa are used across its 54 nations. Some countries share a single currency, which is the number of currencies in fewer than the number of nations. Ibi bishatse kuvuga iki? Bishatse kuvuga ngo in Africa dufite amafaranga agera kuri hagati ya 40 na 43 akoreshwa mu bihugu 54 bya Afrika. Kubera iki? Afrika ifite aya mafaranga 41 kugera kuri 43. So muri hangana turagenda tugerageza kuvanga kino kiganiro hagati y'ururimi rw'icyongereza n'urw'ikinyarwanda kuko giteguye mu rurimi rw'icyongereza, ariko twifuza kugira ngo kibe ikiganiro kigera ku bantu benshi kandi n'abantu benshi babashe kucyumva. Wenda ururimi rw'ikinyarwanda ruragerageza kugenda rubamo ruke, ariko we need that so many people can get what we want to say. So why we have like 41 and between 41 and 43 currencies over 54 nations? One, some nations are sharing the common currency. In West Africa, we have CFA, francs, is used by 80 countries. And in Central Africa, CFA, francs, is used by 6 countries, and also the South Africa, the South African rand is also used by few neighboring countries like Lesotho, Namibia, Eswatini, alongside their own. So they have a land, and also they are using their own currencies, which is good, by the way, because this is what we are fighting for. If they have their own currency and they have adopted to use the land as a cross-border currency, it helps the citizens of these nations. Because this shared system, the total count stay around the low 40 currencies. So this was an overview of the economic system, trading in Africa, how it is, and then why Africa does not have one single common currency. We can talk on 4 points here. 1 point number 1, it's different economic strength and stability. You know, in Africa, Africa is the only continent that does not have its own currency. Why it is the continent that does not have its own continent? Point number one, it is its economy is not, it doesn't have strong stability, and also the currency and economic of each nation are not the same. Point number one, African countries have very different economies. They are differ in economic status. Some are oil-based, others are agriculture-based, others are service-based. So the ones with oil-based, they have its own economic status, and others that are based on agriculture have its own economic status. Then other countries are based on the service delivered. Number two, a single currency works better when countries have similar inflation rates. So in Africa, their currencies have different inflation rates, debts, and growth level. So if they have not have the same inflation rates, and they don't have the same debts, they don't have the growth levels, so that this is another reason behind. Large differences make it risk to unite under one money system. So this one, different economic strength and stability, it is reason number one, which is affecting Africa not to have one currency. Number two, national sovereignty and control. This is another one that is hitting Africa not to have one currency. So we are fighting for how Africa can be united and have one currency that is touching everywhere. National sovereignty and control. Each country wants to control over its own monetary policy. You see? Each nation wants to control its monetary policy, interest rate, money supply, inflation control. Second, point number two, giving up a national currency means giving up some economic independence. So in Africa, we can say that the economic independence of Africa, this nation is, it's another issue. So giving up a national currency means giving up some economic independences. So here I can bring this question: is it necessary to have African currency that is touching at this continent? So the Africa is a bloc that has to be united, by the way. And we have seen so many people were fighting for how Africa can be independent. It can be independent when it has its own currency. It can be independent when it has its own economic system. Point number two, it's political and regional divisions. Africa is united culturally and geographically, but politically it is divided into many blocks. We can say ECOWAS, we can say East African Community, we can say SADC, we can say IS, and so on and so forth. So these blocks also are hindering the unification, economic unification of Africa. But as I said, all Africans, they are sharing the same culture. No, in Africa, the culture of Africans, sometimes it is the same, and also geographically, we can say also that it is one block. We say Africa, and we say it's Africans. Yeah, we can say, and then also remember, it was called Arkeblan. Arkeblan means the land of mankind. So another poet is agreement among all 54 governments on one central bank and one currency system is complex and slow. So, understanding one another, it is somehow critically. So the complex and this central bank and one currency also, when Africa has its own currency and single currency, this cannot leave behind to have each nation currency, but our leaders, they have to work on this, and you cannot say that we have full independence in Africa when you don't have full economic system that is independent. So these 54 nations, they have to sit together and abide. Recently we have seen that there is a new leadership in African continent where we have seen that the African head of states, they have elected His Own Excellency, the President of the Republic of Burundi, on how he's going to chair the Africa Union. So these new leaders, they have to bring the new ideas of how the Africa can be united in all ways. In security, we shall be happy when we see that Africa has one security forces or one army, one currency, one passport, and also one language. We can even promote Swahili or another language that can unite Africans. Another issue is infrastructure and trade integration challenges. These infrastructures and trade integration meet with a high challenge. Point number one, we can say a common currency works better where countries trade heavily with each other. If these 54 nations, they're trading heavily with each other, this can cause a common roots of having one currency. Number two, many African countries still trade more with European, Asia, and America than within the neighboring African states. So some countries, they prefer to trade with Europe and Asia, America, and so on and so forth. But this trading, it is not bad, but let these people from West come with their currency and then get converting their currencies in our African currency, which is not yet. We are proposing, there is some speculations and some ideas that Africa is going to have its own currency, like Afro as the money of Africans, but still a challenge. So if these challenges are removed, Africa will be a very good land, will be a very good, a continent where everyone will be wanting to fit in. So until intra-Africa trade becomes stronger, is a single currency is harder to sustain. So this is number 3 on this infrastructure and trade integration challenges. So we see that if we don't have the currency that is uniting African ecosystem, it is a hindrance. So we can say that there are ongoing efforts towards unity, such as the proposed eco-currency in West Africa and the border African Union vision for long-term monetary integration. However, achieving one currency for the whole continent will require strong economic alignment, political trust, and regional cooperation over time. We, young generation, we can propose to our leaders that Africa, if it is united, it will remove all these mindset and negative perspectives of our people who are perishing in oceans, looking the better life in Western countries. they will be remaining here. 2, we want African citizens to fight for our independence in economic way. We are depending on the dollars and the euros, but we want to have the African continent currency that can be serving our African as motherland. And then I personally, I can give this advice on how the African nations can remain with their currencies and then adopt the currency that can combine the eco-trading system in whole Africa. Then, when this will be available, we can even be happy when we see our continent has one single passport that is helping its population to move from one land to another. Number 3, we will be happy if we see these borders that are burdening our people to move from one country to another are chased away and they form a single block, because this African is a single block. So in short words, we can also proposing that to have one uniting language, that the language that is normally uniting the African continent, because in Africa all the continents, they are speaking different languages, which cannot hinder our economic system. Then we'll be happy when we see the reinforcement of the culture. We thank for some scholars, some African scholars and African leaders that are now fighting for how Africa can be independent. Then, when we are united, when Africans are united and have the same common goals, this will be helping all of us. So religious leaders, the political leaders, traditional leaders, all of us, and the influential leaders, the scholars, authors, all of us, we need to work together as Africans. We don't want to see people of Africans suffering because of unwanted situations. We want to see Africa and its citizens are stable financially, socially, and so on and so forth. If this will be there, the Africa will be the land of mankind. We thank you so much for being with us on the microphone of NAfrica TV, and the Pan-Africanist people are invited to share their views. So now, let me conclude by saying, if you understand and you realize that this emission is helping you so much, go down in the commenting section and you commit. So we are here for you, and we are dedicated to serve all of the people of all of Africa. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Ciao, ciao. See you next.